Hi everyone, hope you can hear me. Let's hope it's not just me talking to myself this evening. Anybody out there? We're going to chat today about the basics for investors and property sourcers, basic information that you need to get started as a property sourcer, or the basics for investors as to what questions you should be asking sourcers. So, starting off with investors, the questions that you should be asking sourcers are basically, are they compliant? Are they registered? Are they registered with the Ombudsman? Are they registered for data protection, for money laundering? And also, do they have any insurance? The reasons for this are basically because if you don't do and you're purchasing properties from people and they don't have the necessary insurance, the experience, compliant with the regulations, you can end up coming unstuck and losing an awful lot of money, which is such a great shame because I see it so much with investors that come to me and say, we've gone to a sourcer, Tina, and we paid a lot of money and the deal wasn't as promised and we can't get our money back. And in a lot of cases, it's proven that checking the website of these sources, they're advertising that they're registered with an ombudsman and various other things, when actually they're not. So just taking what they're saying on face value doesn't work. You've got to do the due diligence for yourself. And from an investor's perspective, the money that you pay for a property is much more than probably you pay for a basic car or anything else that you buy in your life. So why wouldn't you carry out the due diligence? So to say, check the basics. Are they registered with the Property Ombudsman? You know what they are. It's in the group, the TPO, the Property Redress Scheme, and Ombudsman Services Property. Have they got insurance? Hey Sarah P, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Have they got insurance? How much insurance have they got? Don't just take their word for it that they've got the insurance. Ask for a copy of the insurance document. Make sure that it is current. If it isn't, then query it. Why? Because if they don't have any insurance and anything goes wrong, where are you going to go to get some compensation? So compensation-wise, if anything does go wrong and they are registered with a property ombudsman, you can go, once you've gone through their personal in-house complaints procedure, which all property sources should have, and you're still not happy with the result of it, then you can go to the ombudsman and make a formal complaint to the ombudsman and they will take it on board for you. But if they're not registered with an ombudsman, then you've got nowhere else to go other than a private prosecution with a solicitor, which, as we all know, can prove to be really expensive, or the small claims courts. And at the moment in England and Wales, the maximum that you can take someone to court for in the small claims court is £10,000, which last time I checked doesn't cover many property deals. So I can see there's a few people on at the moment. I'm just wondering how I check who is on. If you're on, why don't you say hi and then I can say hi back. Sarah Poynton Ryan's on, my very good friend and ace property sourcer, who's absolutely smashed it for 2017, and judging by her goals for 2018, it's not going to be a quiet year either for her. You guys wanted to talk about the basics for investors and sourcers. If you missed my beginning conversation, ask some questions that you've got. Anything about the basics for investors, if you're working with sourcers, how to protect yourself. Hi Justin, welcome. Hi Jermaine. Hi Marcus. You're from a letting agent. Well, then you should know all of the regulations and the legislation, shouldn't you, Marcus? Fire away questions if you're an investor, or if you're a sourcer, fire away questions. I promised that I would cover the basics for both groups today, and that's what it will be, the absolute basics. Hi Tim, how are you? Oh, not a problem. You're very welcome. I think it's my fear of doing webinars more than anything else has stopped me from doing it. And my good friend Sarah Poynton has pointed out that I really need to start doing it. So which is why I've actually come on this evening to do this little session with you guys in my own group, which is quite a sizable group now of over 1,200 members. And I think it's a group that's really necessary and has been needed for some time. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start it. I hope you agree with me that we have very, very few advertisements in the group, and if there are, it's relevant to the subject that we are covering, which is property sourcing compliance support. And you know, you guys, that you can ask any questions that you want in the group, and I'm in here most evenings. So, basics for investors. I'll go over them again as we've now got quite a few people on board. The basics for investors, if you're an investor, why would you work with a sourcer who you don't know? And a lot of people do. A lot of people don't check up on them. They don't check the basics. Have they got insurance? Are they registered with the property ombudsman? Are they registered for data protection? Are they registered for money laundering? And those are the 4 basics. And each of those are really, really easy to check out. Ask them for a copy of their insurance certificate. Is it current? Ask them which property ombudsman they're registered with. They have on their websites, each of the ombudsman, a list that you can go and check. Put the name of the company or the name of the person. If they're registered with that ombudsman, they will confirm that they are or not. The same with data protection and the same with money laundering. You go, data protection is the Information Commissioner's Office or ICO. Just Google it, ICO, data protection, checklist. And the website comes up, you can check the list, just put the name of the person in or the company and it tells you whether they are actually registered for data protection. And the same again for money laundering. HMRC for money laundering, HMRC money laundering list. Check it, put the name of the company in, again they tell you whether they're registered for supervision or not. Question come in from my good friend Sarah. Tina, as a sourcer, do you think that you can secure higher fees by offering a compliant service? My thoughts are yes. Do you agree? Do investors understand that you get what you pay for? I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think as a sourcer, if you can prove that you are fully compliant going forward, certainly, once we've educated some of the investors as to the rights and wrongs of it, they will be looking for compliant sources more than anyone else. And if you can set yourself aside, why wouldn't you? I think part of the problem with property sources is we don't think of ourselves as being professionals. Maybe we should change our titles to property buying agents. We've got estate agents, we've got letting agents. Why should we not be property buying agents? Purely and simply because that way, emotionally, we attach ourselves to a professional body rather than it being just a part-time job or a part-time way of making a bit of money. I think we've got to make what we do a lot more professional. We've got to behave a lot more professionally and make our sector more professional. And I think that way, if you are more professional, certainly from the presentations that I've been doing going around the country lately, unbeknown to me, and it's a complete surprise, I'm getting a lot of investors coming over to me and saying, Tina, can we work with you? Because obviously you're compliant and you know what you're talking about. So if you can prove that you know what you're talking about, that you are compliant, and all that you need to do for that property source is, come on, is a black folder with little insert pages in. I can't see where mine is. It's normally on my filing shelf over here. And just put copies of everything in that you're registered with. You get the documentation that comes through, so carry it around with you. Just carry it around with you and show that you're professional. Sorry, I'm just looking away and just looking for questions down here, and then let me see that I've covered everything. So yes, I do think you can get higher fees. Investors, I don't know if they understand or not. I think the problem is that maybe a lot of them don't understand that property sourcing is actually heavily governed and regulated. So I think it's maybe a matter of education, which hopefully that's what we're going to start doing, going around the country and educating certainly the investors and reducing the pool that illegal and non-compliant property sources can operate in, and the ones that are set up compliantly then get all of the investors for themselves. Fingers crossed. Anyway, that's how it works. Jermaine, what type of insurance does a sourcer need? Technically speaking, legally, if you join one of the property ombudsmans, none. But I think from a professional perspective and to protect yourself and your clients, the one that the other two request is professional indemnity insurance, otherwise known as PI insurance. And what that basically is, it covers you in case your services are of a lower standard than expected by the client. so that basically there's a means for which they can sue you if they believe that you've provided them with less than standard services. So it's professional indemnity insurance. The Property Ombudsman and the Property Redress Scheme insist on a minimum of £100,000 PI insurance before you can become a member. Ombudsman services property don't ask proof of insurance so that you've got any. Personally, from my perspective, if you want to set up a professional looking property sourcing business, you want to be in that business for a long term, not just short term, not just make a little bit of cash from one person and then move on to the next and screw everybody for every penny that you can get without providing a really good service. There are always going to be some out there that will do that, but for me, professionally, you should be running with insurance to protect yourself and to protect your clients. I hope that helps, Jermaine. Marcus, do sources think this game is easy? I get asked for deals every day that they want to sell them to others. Yeah, there are some people out there that believe it's easy. It is when you get the contacts and you know how to do it and you're professional and further down the line. I mean, I've been doing it 5.5 years now. So yeah, people come to me with the deals. I get them passed to me on Facebook. Some are great, some are lesser, and that's polite. They think it's easy because the training tells them that it's easy and they're being sold a dream, Marcus, and they're being told that you can make 3,000 a week, and some sources do. Some sources make more than that. But you need to be told that you've got to do it legally and compliantly, not just that you can go out there and make a lot of money and set yourself up professionally, because if you don't do and things go wrong, it's your backside that's in the sling and not those trainers that have taught you. If you go out there and you inadvertently launder a lot of money through property sourcing, you're opening yourself up to a huge can of worms, even up to imprisonment. And don't think for one moment that HMRC won't notice you because you're only doing 1 or 2 deals. They're really focusing on the property sector at the moment. And we're really getting a hammering. Landlords, the whole sector is being looked at, and it won't take HMRC long to work out that estate agents aren't the only ones out there that they have to watch. And since June this year, estate agents now have to carry out money laundering checks on every buyer. So they're matching us in what we have to do. That was never the case before. So yeah, they think it's easy. They think they can make a lot of quick money from it. And the problem is that a lot of them are still, and they're not getting the backsides kicked, which is a shame, but hopefully that will change going forward. I can see some ill-sold property deals maybe coming the next PPI. That's just my opinion, but I can see it coming along where people have sold bad deals, badly priced, badly set up, doesn't say what the advertisement that you get describes it, for argument's sake, as one that I've heard of, where you can convert to serviced accommodation. You can earn X amount of money in a week. This is how much the refurb will cost, and this is what it will value out at. And when we come to revalue, it's not valued at even the price that they're paying for it, never mind including the refurbishment. And in the agreement for the block of flats, you can't sublet, you can't do short-term lets. So they can't use it for the purpose that it was promised. And these guys can't get the money back because the company's refusing to refund them, which is really sad. I hope that answers your question, Marcus. Yes, they think it's easy. There are people out there wanting deals every day, but be very, very careful if you're working with a sourcer that isn't compliant, because unless you check that they are and you prove that they are, you're equally liable if you sell on a deal that they found and you haven't checked their due diligence on that deal. So just beware if you're working with third-party sources. Sarah's throwing a party, Sarah Poynton Ryan, because she thinks that there's more money, amazing money in the deal if she's more compliant. I think Sarah, I think you're right. Some sources think that it's easy, and absolutely it's not. It's a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of time for you to set up the business and get going. It doesn't happen overnight. When I first started, I started looking into sourcing in January 2012. My first check, yes, it was a check, guys, was for £1,500. And I've still got a copy of it somewhere because I kept it, and that didn't come into our bank account until February 2013. And that was because I was researching the legislation, and I had to find some investors that wanted to invest in the north, which is where we're based. And it took a lot of time to build up that relationship and get people on board to the point where they would trust us with their hard-earned cash, which is fine. I accept that. Marcus, being professional does seem to help. Looking like a shark doesn't. Yeah, I agree. I think going forward, that's definitely going to be the case. I think the problem that property sources who refuse to become compliant will have further down the line is that those of us that are compliant, we will stand out. We will stand out by a mile. And when we get all of the investors on board and educated as to what questions to ask and what to look for, they'll start noticing the sharks out there and they won't go to them anymore. And there are an awful lot of sharks out there. Some of them not purposely, some of them have come out of education and just don't know. There are three types of property sources. Those that have been educated in how to property source but don't know anything about compliance. If they did, they would be. Those that have a basic knowledge but they're scared because they don't understand how to put it into practice and how to move forward and how to be compliant, but they will be if they have the knowledge and the support. And then those out there that understand completely that they are supposed to be compliant but don't give a damn, don't care about investors, don't care about anyone that they're working with. And I've had them even turn around to me when I've been doing presentations and said, well, who's going to come and get us? Who's going to make us stop because we're making a lot of money doing this at the moment? And I can't answer that. Eventually it will happen. I don't doubt it. It will happen and someone will be made a, what's the word? They'll set someone out and they'll set someone up and they'll really hammer them for it. And about time too, because they shouldn't be operating that way. And don't forget, guys, that ignorance is certainly no defence in law. Just because you say I didn't know that will not protect your backside from heavy fines. And fines are onerous. Just for failing to register, it's £5,000 a pop, and that's for both data protection, for money laundering, and for the redress schemes. And that's every time that you call it, not just once. On top of that, they can shut you down and prevent you from operating, which none of us wants. There's a huge market for what we do for property buyers, and there's a lot of investors out there with large pots of money that are cash rich and time poor, want a professional to be able to help them to find the properties, the sites that they want. And it's a service that we do that estate agents can't do. And you know why they can't do that? Because they represent the seller. Their fee is coming from the seller. It isn't coming from the buyer. We work for the buyer in the main. We look out for them. At least that's what we're supposed to be doing. Although with half of the deals that I see on Facebook at the moment, I don't think they're looking out for anyone other than themselves. I don't know about you guys. Maybe you can put some comments in the bottom about some deals that you've seen, but a lot of them don't stack up for me. There's nothing in it, and yet people are paying. They're leaving tens of thousands of pounds into deals where really you should be walking away from it. I hope this is useful to you guys. Please put some comments down, ask me some questions. Sarah. Can you share the best steps, things to say to explain to investors why they need to be registered properly, i.e. ID and sourcing agreement before they see the light of deals? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sarah. Maybe I'm reading it all wrong. Maybe I should put my reading glasses on. Investors. Are you meaning investors and why they should know that property sources should be registered, or are we talking about why property sources, if they understand the legislation, why they ask for ID and sourcing agreements and all of that kind of thing? Oh, I think that's what you mean, yeah. For you investors out there, light of day, open the curtains. Property sources who are compliant absolutely must confirm at least your ID and where you live, that you are who you say you are, that you live where you say you live, before technically they should work with you. And that includes sending you information about deals, period. That's what they should be doing. And they're in breach of regulations if they don't. I've had people turn around and say to me, well, the solicitor does that. Well, yeah, they do. But what HMRC have done is they've set property sources and estate agents now at the front line of protection, mainly for money laundering, which is a huge problem within the UK as well as worldwide. They estimate between 30 and 90 billion a year is laundered in the UK alone, and that's just a guesstimate. But to get back to the point, investors, you need to be aware that as property sources, we have to confirm that you are who you say you are and you live where you say you live. That is an absolute priority. But before, in my case, you could reserve one of my deals, we have to confirm your financial position. We have to confirm that, one, you have the finances, and then that, two, where those funds have come from. And it isn't just a matter of saying, well, it's in the bank statement and that's where it is. I'm sorry, but that doesn't count. It doesn't count for money laundering, and it won't wear with a decent property sourcer. And if you're not being asked those questions, then you need to question your property sourcer as to why they're not. And if they look at you blankly, then go somewhere else. Because if they're not compliant with that and they don't understand that, then the likelihood is they don't understand anything else either. So it's really important for investors that you understand that we need legally to confirm that you are who you say you are, to confirm that you live where you say you live, confirm that you have funds, yes, but also confirm where those funds come from. Now, it's likely that it's quite easy for us to be able to prove where those funds have come from. For argument's sake, you may have sold your house and downsized and released some capital to invest in a property, and that's great, because when you sold your house, you'll have gone through a solicitor, so you can get a solicitor's letter to confirm that. You'll also have a solicitor's letter to confirm the purchase of your new property and the difference between the two, and showing it in your bank account. As long as we can prove the steps of where the money has been, where it's come from, where it's been, and have it qualified by a solicitor or an accountant, that's absolutely fine. The same goes for if you come into an inheritance because a member of your family has died. That's easily provable through a solicitor or an accountant. What's more difficult is if you've come into the money over a period of time, you've saved it. But if I've understood the regulations correctly, as long as you see, say, 6 to 12 months worth of every other month showing the savings going in, and get maybe a statement from the bank saying that this has been a regular thing for several years, and that should be absolutely fine. There's always usually a way of being able to prove where the sources of funds have come from. Obviously it gets more difficult if they're abroad. But if they're in a foreign country, you're in the Facebook group, come on, ask the question and I'll help you if you can, but I'm not going into all of that right now. So Sarah P, I hope that answers what you were saying about we have to confirm the ID and the sourcing, and you must sign a sourcing agreement and terms and conditions before we will work with you. If you go and you work with a solicitor, you go and work with an accountant, you go and work with any other professional, you sign a terms of business to say that you abide by those terms of business and that you will pay that person whatever the fee is promised or at the time when it states in the terms of business. So please certainly don't come along to me as an investor and expect me to pass all of my deals on to you without you signing a terms of business, because it absolutely will not happen. That's right, isn't it, Sarah P? Jermaine Smith, how do I carry out a money laundering check on a potential investor? There isn't such a thing as a sort of a money laundering check. What it means is that you have to understand where the money has come from. So you have to ask them the question. And if you do that when you just first met them, having a coffee with them or a cup of tea, other beverages available, they probably won't answer you. It's about building a relationship up with the investor over a period of time, which is why it's not easy. These people that tout them all over the internet on Facebook and everything, and then just send out information, I don't think it's professional, but they're not protecting themselves either. You need to protect yourself. So you need, as I just said earlier, Jermaine, you need to confirm that that person is who they say they are. So you need to use personal ID for that. Photographic is the best. So a photographic driving license or a passport would do. And you need to confirm that they live where they say they live. So a utility bill, less than 3 months old, it would be great. You can't accept copies unless you've seen the original, by the way. They can have their identification certified by a solicitor, and then when it's certified by a solicitor, you can accept a copy at that point. If they're remote from you and you can't see them face to face, which is sometimes the case, try doing what I do, and that's have a Skype call and use your smartphone to take a picture of their photographic driving license or passport next to their face on the screen. And then get them to send you a copy. Or if you'd rather not do that, ask them to get it certified at a post office, which the post office can do, but they charge. Our solicitor actually recently, when we were purchasing a block of flats, didn't charge us for doing the photocopy and giving us the certified documents, very kindly, but they didn't. I don't think that's the case with all solicitors, but ours didn't. So, Jermaine, in short, for money laundering checks, check that they are who they say they are, they live where they say they live, they do have the funds, but also ask the question as to where those sources of funds have come from, and then have a think about if they've sold a property, or if they've sold a business, or if they've inherited the money, whatever it is they've done, how you could create a paper chain to prove that you have looked into it and where that money has come from and it's landed in the bank on whatever date it was, and that you'll be absolutely fine. But keep notes. Make sure that you hold records. It's very, very important, because just because you say to someone that this has been done, if there's no proof of it, if HMRC came in and checked up on you, they wouldn't accept it. So keep notes, record everything. Use a CRM, a spreadsheet, paperwork if you absolutely have to do in the beginning, but make notes of telephone calls that you have or meetings. When you come back from a meeting, make a note of what was said, what was exchanged, and what your next steps are going to be. It's a great reminder for you, because I don't know about you guys, but at my age, my memory's going. It deletes everything that it should hold on to, and holds on to everything that I would prefer it deleted. It's just how it is as you get older. I hope that's fine, Jermaine. If you've got if you want any more detail than that, ping another question at the bottom. Gary, hi Tina, I'm in the process of getting professional indemnity insurance and have been asked to provide a standard letter of engagement. Can you advise what this is and how best to produce one? I'm not sure what they mean by a standard letter of engagement, Gary. I'm really not sure. In the process of, where are you getting your professional indemnity insurance from? Is it from a broker? I'm not sure what a standard letter of engagement is. It may mean that they want to have a look at your T's and C's, I suppose, if you've got those to hand. If not, ask them for clarity as to what a standard letter of engagement is. Ask them what it is. There are, in the Facebook group, there are quite a few people in there that have volunteered that they can provide specific insurance policies for property sourcing compliance. So have a nosy around. There's a thread that links with insurance. So have a look and see if you can find that. I think there are 3 or 4 companies in the group that help provide professional indemnity insurance for property sources, because it's a particular type of insurance. But I'm sorry, I don't know what the standard letter of engagement is, other than one that you would terms and conditions for entering into an agreement with a client. That's the only thing I can think of. So if you don't want to ask them what it is, see if you can find one of our insurance guys in the group and have a word with them for the professional indemnity insurance. And maybe if one of them's listening, or you could put the question up and ask any of the insurance professionals in the group if they can answer the question for you. I do know that insurance companies now are getting a lot tighter on insuring insurance. They've started. We sort of raised our head above the parapet for property sourcing, so they're starting asking a lot more questions now. And I've had no end of questions being asked of me, even just for renewing now, which I never got in the first place. But it is how it is. It is how it is now. They're going to start tightening it up and making it a lot more professional, which in a lot of ways is great. I hope that helps, Gary. If not, ask another question underneath. Debbie, apart from the compliance regs, how do I learn how to source? Thank you. Apart from compliance, there's a great sourcer in the group called Sarah Point and Ryan. If you put a comment in the group and tag Sarah in, I'm sure she'll respond to you. She's probably one of the best sourcers that I've come across, better than me at sourcing. She sources some fantastic deals, and she regularly does it, and she's built a team around her now, which is probably second to none. So apart from the regulations and the legislation, if you want to learn about property sourcing, for me, I would ask Sarah Point and Ryan for some hints and tips and have a word with her. I hope that helps, Debbie. Jermaine, this is extremely useful, Tina. Loving every minute of it. I'm glad that somebody is. Because I'm really out of my comfort zone doing this, guys. I am so out of my comfort zone. I can do lots of things. I was a policewoman and I faced a sawn-off shotgun. But I tell you, this is terrifying. Jermaine, might be the terms of business. Yeah, it might be the terms of business. You're quite right, Jermaine. That's the only thing that I can think of. I think that's with relation to the insurance question. Gary, Sarah P recommended the broker, and it's the underwriters Richard uses that have asked for it. If that's the case, Gary, I would go back to them and ask what they mean by that. Do they mean terms and conditions that you use with a client? If that's the case, I hope you have some. Other than that, when I first started, I used a site called Simply Docs, Simply-Docs. They have different groups for different classes of documentation: business, property, employer, I think it is, and something else. The business one is great. The property one is fantastic. It never existed when I started. I had to go through the documentation and try to find the one that I wanted. But you'd find standard service terms and conditions in there. There may even be one under the property sector specifically for property sources now. It's £35 per group, i.e. business or property, per year. And for that £35, I think it's £35 still, you can download as many documents that you want as often as you want. So you can have a nosy at them. But what I always suggest that you do is, and it's something that I do regularly now, is download one and make it out, but ask a solicitor to check over it for you, because sometimes if you califudge, as I call it, I remember that's a northern expression, if you copy paste stuff from here, there and everywhere and make one up yourself, sometimes you can put in contradictory terms which will negate the contract, so be very careful about what you do. But certainly I'd ask Richard as to whether it's T's and C's that he's looking for. I suspect that it is. And if you don't have any, have a look on Simply Docs. Under the property sector, under the business sector, service agreement or property sourcing agreement, and see what comes up. Very simply, it should tell them when you want to get paid, how you want to get paid, contain a non-disclosure agreement and a non-circumvention agreement, and a lot of other legal blurb that it never makes sense to anyone, but it has to be in the contracts. I hope that helps, Gary. Jermaine, yes, she does have excellent videos on YouTube. She certainly does. She does great videos to Sarah. I am most jealous of her ability to be able to do videos and live web and really engage with people and always be happy and bouncing. I don't know where she gets the energy from. She, funnily enough, she's been trying to teach me sales, and she wrote a script for me and she recorded the script. And when I came to try to replicate it, I couldn't get my mouth to work fast enough to keep up with the way that she was speaking on her recording. It was hilarious. It should have been recorded and put on YouTube. I would have made millions. Hi, Debbie. Thank you. It's been so helpful. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm glad that it's helpful. I really am. Julie, thank you. I don't know what's great and what's not. I'm glad that everybody's finding it really useful. Tim, to be a property sourcer, can this be done as a sole trader as well as a limited company? Yes, Tim, you can be a sole trader, a partnership, a limited company, or a charity now. When I first started, you had to set up a limited company, hence why Sanctuary Property Sourcing was set up right at the very beginning. We couldn't join. There was only one ombudsman then, which was the property ombudsman, and the rules were that we had to have a limited company to do it. That's changed now, and you can be a sole trader, a charity, a partner, you like. So you go for it, Tim, whatever's best for you. I always suggest that you check with an accountant as to which would work better for you for tax purposes, because everyone's different and everyone's position is different. So yeah, great, Tim, you go for it. You do whatever it is that you want to do. Sam, it's fantastic that you're learning so much. Please get asking questions. I'm here for another 30 minutes yet. You all said that you wanted the basics for investors and sources. Some of you missed the beginning of it and you want me to cover what the investors need to look for. I'll go through, when I've gone through these questions, I'll go through the sources bit in a moment. Andrea, I look relaxed. Oh, great. I don't feel like it inside. I'm like a swan, serene on the surface and panicking like mad underneath. Yeah, you do grow from being outside your comfort zone, but there comes a time, Tim, when you could just do with a bit of relaxation and chilling for a while and just recharge the batteries. I feel like I've been outside my comfort zone now for about 18 months writing the book, and now I'm going into doing the courses and doing these live events, standing up in front of people and presenting, which I love doing. It's just seeing myself in the camera and not knowing if anybody else is out there and listening to me that just feels really weird. Andrea, that's helpful as some courses charge for their paperwork. Yeah, they do, and I understand why. People have asked me if they can use my contracts and everything, and at the moment, I don't know if it would help any of you guys when I can get it off hopefully off the ground. I'm working with a young solicitor who has recently checked out my contracts to make sure that she believes that they're compliant. And what I'm hoping to do is work with her and have my documentation taken as master copies that she holds. And if you guys come on to one of my courses, you have an opportunity to be able to link in with her, and she will then adapt my master copies for your business. Obviously, there will be a charge for it. You can't get these things done for free. Trust me, in the last 6 months, we've forked out £3,500 just to have our investor documentation checked for compliance, for legality still. £3,500 just to have it checked. These have existed for years, and it's still £3,500 just to have them checked out. So you can imagine how much it will cost for you to have them drawn up from scratch. So if I can get mine registered as a master copies that are legal with the solicitor, if you get them from her for a much reduced price, other than what it will cost you to actually purchase them and have them written up for you bespoke, then that would be a great starting point for everybody that's starting out, and hopefully we can have everybody on legal contracts and working off the same hymn sheet, so to speak. So I don't know if that would be of interest to anybody, or if you think that would be useful. It's something that I'm looking at working with going forward, simply because it was something that I had a huge problem with. I had to write my own. And whilst I have a sort of a semi-legal background from being in the police, trust me, writing contracts is not an exciting pastime. It really isn't. It's up there with operations manuals and entering data into databases for me. Come on, folks, some more questions. You've gone quiet, and there's 17 of you out there. You must have some burning questions. Gary, that's the years of being in the box giving evidence. Nobody can see your legs. Yeah, there have been times, Gary, when I thought my legs would give way underneath me, I can tell you, but they never did, fortunately. And it's having that barrier that you can bring down in front of you and make it look as if everything's absolutely fine when actually you're panicking like buggery underneath, but there you go. So I spoke about what investors need to look for earlier. For those of you that didn't get that, if you're an investor and you're working with a sourcer, sourcers should really have at least £100,000 PI, professional indemnity insurance. They should be registered for data protection. They should be registered for money laundering, and they should be registered with one of the 3 redress schemes in the UK. Ask them for all of that, for proof of it, before you work with them or go anywhere near them. That's the investor's side of it. So, sources, property sources, what should you have? You should have a reasonable understanding of the legislation and regulation. You should have a company set up of some sort, whether that's sole trader or whatever it is, but please have a professional setup. Don't think that you can do this part-time and get away with it long-term, because you absolutely won't. And I really don't want to see any of you guys being stung for heavy fines and shutting your business down before we've even got started. So a professional setup, have a professional attitude towards it. This is not part-time for fun. This is a professional business, and you're providing what should be a professional service to people who are handing over to you, let's face it, quite a bit of money for you to go off and find them some properties or sites. So let's be professional. PI insurance, minimum £100,000. What do we have? I've topped ours up recently. I've increased it purely because we're dealing with, I really enjoy doing development sites. So I've kind of moved on from the 2-bedroom terrace house buy-to-let type stuff, and I'm sourcing larger development sites for higher price figures. So our risk is higher. So we've increased our PI insurance to, I think it's 1.2 million. And we also have PL insurance because sometimes we show potential buyers around the site that we've sourced, and of course if they trip or they have an accident, we could be liable for that. So we have public liability insurance as well, and we have employers insurance as well, and all of that costs us around about the 475 to 485 a year for that level of insurance. So you should be getting 100k's worth of insurance for around the 200, maybe 250 mark. I would have thought, guys, would be a reasonable price range to go for. So be professional, have your insurance, your PI insurance, register with the Property Ombudsman, and they are the Property Ombudsman, or TPO, the Property Redress Scheme, or PRS, and Ombudsman Services Property. Those are the 3 recognised ones in the UK. Cost of doing that varies. They have, I think a couple of them have 2 levels of registration that you can go for. I think the main difference is that on the basic one, you're a basic member, but if you have a complaint made against you, you have an above for them to investigate that. And I can't remember off the top of my head how much it is. With the TPO that I'm a member of, it's just a one-off figure, and I think it's just gone up, but it's under 200 quid a year, which is neither here nor there. So get yourself registered with the redress scheme. As I said, for 2 of them, you have to have your insurance and you have to prove that you've got it. Data protection, Information Commissioner's Office, sign with the Information Commissioner's Office for data protection, sign with HMRC for money laundering. Get yourself professional documentation, set yourself up right, and have a really good understanding of the regulations and the legislation. And not just the registration, because just registering isn't the end of it. It's the tip of the iceberg. It's how you run day in, day out, 365 days a year. So let's have a look and see if we've got any more questions. Is there a standard for rates or recommended for someone using a sourcer? Do you mean, Tim, do you mean how much people charge for a deal? Is that what you're meaning, Tim? If that's what you mean, our minimum charge for a buy-to-let deal is £3,000. HMOs run anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000-ish. And our development sites, the sky's the limit, dependent on the size of the development site. Hope that helps. Jermaine, what is your opinion on joint venture property sourcing? Ooch. Jermaine, when you start talking about joint ventures, you're running dangerously close to FCA regulations. It all depends what you mean by a joint venture. If you're brokering a deal, that is, you're bringing a seller and a buyer together, you're bringing them together, one of them sells, one of them buys the property, and you get a fee for doing that, and then you walk away, that is property sourcing. If you're saying that as a sourcer, you're staying in the deal and sharing the profit on the back end, that's FCA regulated, and you need to be very, very careful. And there is a person who is a much, much better expert than me on this, and that's John Corey, and he's in our group. So if anyone has any questions about joint ventures, tag John Corey and or myself into it, and we'll help you all that we can. I hope that helps, Tim. Sorry, Jermaine. Tim, what would be a reasonable ballpark figure for costings to be fully compliant? Annually, if you allocate £1,000, you'll have change. You'll have change. Once you've got your contracts up and running, because obviously the cost of you purchasing the contracts, getting them up and running, there is a cost. Hi, Alex Matt, nice to see you. I can see your little picture and you're saying hi. Hi. Megan, hi Megan. Gary, so public liability isn't a necessity for sourcers doing standard resi commercial sourcing deals. It isn't a legal requirement. We have it purely because if we source a deal and we take the investor around to have a look and something happens, we could be the people that would be liable if anything happened to them. So we have public liability. To be quite honest, it doesn't cost that much more in your insurance policy to have some. I would get it, but I can't tell you to do that. You've got to make that decision for yourself. You've got to risk assess it for yourself and decide how you work, whether you will come into contact with members of the public or they may come into contact with the site that you're sourcing, you have an agreement on, you're responsible for, whatever. You've got to make that judgment call for yourself. But certainly from my perspective, we've always had public liability and we always will have. For me, it's a just in case. And that's all I can say really on that one. Legally, you don't have to have it, but for me, I would. But it's your call. It has to be your call, Gary. Andrea, I saw someone on Facebook investors page and he was offering a property for a sourcing fee, but I found it on Rightmove in minutes. How would you recommend this can be avoided? Andrea, I wish it could be, but it can't. A lot of sources are going scouring Rightmove, and don't get me wrong, it is a way that a lot of people source deals, and I've sourced deals that have been on Rightmove that we've then gone to the agent for, and I'll explain to you how we can do that. As sourcers, we work and we source for our investors. So we have investors come on board and they register with us, they go through our registration process and they explain to us what their short, mid and long-term goals are, what strategies they want to use and what area they're looking at. And we say, yeah, we think we can help, sign up, and we'll see what we can do. We then go off and we source for them. So we know if we get something that ticks all of the boxes that they've indicated they want, they'll more than likely purchase that deal. If they don't do, then we ask them to clarify why it didn't work and amend what we're sourcing. But if we're looking for buy-to-let properties, quite often we'll go on the internet and see what's on the market, and we've got to know the local agents so well now that we can sort of switch them on and off for us. So we'll go to them and say we've got another couple of clients on board and they're looking for 2-bedroom terraced houses in this area, the area that we normally source in, between this price range. They don't mind having to do a bit of renovation work, as long as it's not too structural. If anything comes on board, let us know. And they always do, because they know that we don't mess about, and that if we say that our buyer is interested, that they buy. But that takes time to do, and it takes time to build up those relationships. So you can use Rightmove, but we never then put it out as a deal. We use Rightmove to source for our particular client, knowing that they're distant. Remember, they are cash rich and time poor, so they don't mind how you find them as long as the deal stacks for them. And quite often the estate agent will give you a clue and say to you, so-and-so is selling it, they're wanting to downsize, they found a property that they really want, so they'd really like to sell, and they'll accept something in this sort of price range. I'm sure they will. Would that be of interest to your investors? Yeah, absolutely. Can I come around and have a look? And then you can package it up, but tell the estate agent what you're doing. Be honest with them. Tell them that you're representing some investors, but that you can pass all the details on to them, and they already have a portfolio, or they're looking to build a portfolio up in the area. Be honest. But yeah, I agree. Rightmove, sourcing it, thinking that you've got a deal and then firing out to the open market just is the way to go for me. It's just not how I work. It's how some people work. I would put money on the fact that they're not compliant. They don't understand what they're doing, but someone's told them to make a few grand a week. And it's sad. I find it really, really sad. You're welcome, Jermaine. Alex, what are you asking me, Alex? We have public liability for site meetings and people visiting our office. Yeah, that's right. I think you'd agree, Alex, when I say that it's not, it doesn't add that much to your insurance bill, and just for peace of mind, we have it just in case. For anyone visiting site. We're going up to Carlisle tomorrow. We've secured another block of flats for a client in Carlisle on an option agreement. And the client's going to have a look, and as long as he passes it on the day, we'll get the nod to go straight to purchase, which is great. But we have that PL insurance just in case he goes in there and there's a hell of a great hole in the floor and he goes down it. The buyer may not have it. We have to have it because he's our client and we're working with him. So that's why we do it. So yeah, I agree, Alex. It's I think businesses should have it just as a matter of course, but I guess everyone has to make their own judgment call. Alex, yeah, the relationship with your sourcer is vital. Tim, how would you best recommend reaching out to get investors on board? Network your backside off, Tim, is what I would say. That's what it took me 10 months to do. Go to the places where you think the investors will be, and that isn't necessarily at property meets. It really isn't. In fact, most of them that are at property meets probably wouldn't use the services of sourcer. Possibly, but not necessarily so. A lot of ours are at business meetings, networking meetings, business networking meetings. Go to the property meetings if you want to do to practice. We got more benefit from going to just plain business networking and just saying what we did. And there's a lot of people out there that are high earners that have always been interested in looking at investing in property, don't have the time and don't have the understanding as to how to do it or where to start or what strategy works where. And that's where your knowledge, your local knowledge, will come in really handy. So try going out to some local business networking meetings. I think you can go to some of them free of charge for at least once and see what it's like and get a gauge for the level of person that attends that meeting. Some of them will work and some of them won't. You'll just have to use your own judgment on that. So that's how I'd say getting on board with investors, putting yourself out there, networking, telling them what you do, but carrying that folder with you with your inserts in that I talked about at the beginning, with all of your professional compliances in, and let them know that sets you apart from, I would say, probably at least 95% of the rest of sources out there. So you go ahead and you do that, Tim. You prove that you're a professional and that you have the knowledge, and you can prove it because you've got your little book that says that you've got insurance and you're registered everywhere and you understand anti-money laundering protection. And most of them will be absolutely gobsmacked at that because most sources haven't got a clue. Alex, yeah, you're right. It's not expensive and it's worthwhile to have, and that's the public liability that we were talking about earlier. Jermaine, absolute pearls of wisdom and experience gained here. Really appreciating this, even if I am wrestling with a 3 and a 1 year old to go to bed. Mine are all grown up, Jermaine. Our youngest is 22. So, but I sympathise with you. I understand that it's fantastic that you're actually still wrestling with them and listening. That's absolutely brilliant. Any more questions? I realise that I've been talking for nearly an hour and it's absolutely flown by. The basics, I think we've really covered. It's the basic registrations. Going into more depth, don't forget, guys, as sources, just registering isn't enough. That isn't the end of it. There's an awful lot that goes after that, working day in, day out and proving that the policies and procedures that I am sure you all have and you all work to, that you understand them and you know what you should be doing day in and day out with your clients, and that every time that you work with them, they all get the same level of service, and that's what policies and procedures are all about. Are there any more questions, guys? I run out of questions and there's still 17 of you out there. There must be some more burning questions for basics than this. Come on, test me, challenge me. Come on, keep me awake. Come on. Because I'm feeling really, really tired at the minute. It's been one of those days. If anybody's wondering about the book launch, that's something else. That is something else. It is coming, I promise. It's loaded. But apparently, and I didn't know, Amazon can take up to 3 weeks to actually okay your book. I'm wondering if some little person is sitting there in Amazon and reading all the books that get uploaded. I've just got these visions of these rooms of people sitting there and reading books to make sure that there's no profanities in them and no information that shouldn't be put out there to the public, because apparently it takes them up to 3 weeks to okay a book. Unless someone tells me they've got a fantastic algorithm out there that sort of like checks your words in your book, I have no idea, but yeah. So it kind of scuppered plans a bit for the earlier launch, so it's slightly later than planned, but there you go. Come on, guys, there's no more questions. You're not keeping me occupied. Come on. What else do you want to know about? What other burning questions have you got? Because you've got 5 minutes, and then I'm going downstairs, and my hubby's going to make me a brew, I hope, because he's watching this, so hopefully he's listening and he will know what I'm saying. Oh, Jermaine, yes, I've written a book. Yes, I have. Did I not mention that one, Jermaine? Yes, I have. It's called Property Sourcing Compliance, Keeping You on the Right Side of the Law. It's uploaded to Amazon, as I've just been saying. I'm waiting for them to okay it, and then we will launch along with a Kindle version and shortly to follow behind an audio version, which I've already recorded. So yes, I have written the book. Alex, what is the most rewarding part of sourcing for you? I just love it. I love anything to do with property. I always have done. From when I was sort of like a first an adult, I was always fascinated by properties and bonds for conversion. And whilst I'd always wanted to be a police officer and I loved the job that I did, now that I'm out of it, I can see that it was just a job. And the fantastic thing for me about sourcing is that if you want to take a day off, although I'm not at the moment because I'm busy doing other things, you can work as many hours as you want and put into it as much as you want to. Admittedly, you only get out what you put into it, but you can turn it on and switch it off if you want to. And it's about helping people and providing a great service, viewing houses, which I absolutely love. Even when it's raining, it doesn't make any difference. Driving up to Carlisle tomorrow to view a site, and we're taking packed lunch with us, and it's like having a picnic. It's like going on holiday when you're off. And then I'm touring around the country and standing up in front of people and talking to them about what I do and the importance of being compliant. And I guess it's the legal background in me of being a police officer, but I love compliance. I love everything being legal. I'm a very organised kind of person. Everything has a place and everything should be in its place. Although if I turn this camera around at the moment and showed you the office, there's quite a bit of filing that could do with being done. So I'm really not on top of my game at the moment. But in my defence, I've been writing articles and writing training programmes and all sorts of other stuff. So the rewarding part for me is the fact that now that Tony's retired, that's my husband, for years, he was in the police for over 30 years, and he used to get one weekend off a month. And we always missed out on a lot of family time and family events. We could never all be together as a family. And now, Tony and I can spend every day together. We do what we love doing together. And that doesn't mean to say we don't butt heads occasionally, we do. But we love being together. We love doing what we're doing. We're learning what our different roles are in the business, and we're adapting to that. And I know that 2018 we will really, really drive it forward again. And it's rewarding because I can do what I want to do when I want to do it, with the man that I love by my side, without having to go out to a 9-to-5 job. And it earns us, when we do it properly, enough money for us to be able to have a really nice lifestyle, without me being under control of someone else by saying you have to be here at that time or there at that time. I can do what I want and go where I want and meet whoever I want and just do what I want, really. It's taken 5.5 years, I guess, to get there, but I love every aspect of it, Alex. It's very difficult for me to pick out a point that's more rewarding, other than the fact that every day doesn't feel like a job. In fact, I'll tell you, Tony has said since he retired that every day to him, his week is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's no Mondays or Tuesdays or anything in it, and that's how we both feel about it. And I hope everybody else that gets into sourcing or whatever else they do in property feels exactly the same way, that you do it because you love it and that you want to provide a professional service, a fantastic service, and build yourself a long-standing business that you can work in going forward and develop and create a fantastic lifestyle for yourself. Come on, guys, there's no questions coming in. There's 20 of you out there. You must have some burning questions. Come on, I'm here. I'm here right in front of you talking to you, and my voice is going now. So you need to ask me some questions. You've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. I've covered the basics for investors and sources. What we didn't particularly talk about was policies and procedures. Legally, you should have some policies and procedures in place. Anti-money laundering, certainly. Data protection. As long as if you don't employ anyone, you don't have to think about that kind of policies and procedures, but certainly data protection and money laundering you need in place. And believe it or not, bribery. And our bribery officer for our company is my husband. Maybe I could bribe him into making a brew when I'm finished doing this. He's not commented yet. He must be sitting and listening. Come on, guys. I can't see any more questions. Where have you gone? That's the dream, financial freedom. Yeah, I guess it's mainly everyone's dream, Jermaine, why we do it. Tony and I do it because we want a better lifestyle for ourselves. It's not about us being multimillionaires. I don't know if we'll get to be multimillionaires or not. I don't know. That's not the goal. The goal is for us to have a monthly income which allows us to do what we want to do when we want to do it. But also, we have 3 children. They're not children, they're sort of grown up, 30, 29, or I should say almost 30, just in case she's listening. Almost 30, 29 and 22. And we want to try and provide a better start for them than we had, an easier start for them than we had. The housing market now has gone to such where people struggle getting on the housing market. If we can do something that helps them to be able to have an easier life, then that would be fantastic. But obviously a great life for Tony and I as well. Travelling, we'd like to go on travel before we're too old to be able to do it. And we have a few years yet. No comments there, Alex Matz. But yeah, Jermaine, that's the dream. It's financial freedom, but not just financial freedom, time freedom, the time to be able to do it. And it's the finances that grant you the time, I think, probably more than anything else. So thank you, Alex. That's lovely of you, saying that I'm doing great, pushing a fully compliant sourcing community. That's the idea of what the group is for, property sourcing compliance support. That's what it's all about. My ultimate aim is to raise awareness, knowledge and standards across our industry. That's what this is all about. Yes, it's a business and it has to pay for itself. But as I said before, my goal isn't to become a multimillionaire. It's about making a change. And if you like, this is what I want to be my legacy. This is absolutely what I want to be my legacy. It's been a dream for a while. And I intend to make it happen. And no one is going to stop me. There's no, you can't do this. if someone puts a problem in front of you, there's a way around it, over it, under it, or through it, and I don't give a damn what the problem is. There's always a solution to it, you just have to find it. And I'll find a solution whereby we can make as near as damn it 100% compliance, tidy the industry up, make it much more professional, make us admired for how professional we are, and make investors out there really want to come and work with us. Okay, guys, if there's no more questions, I'm coming up to the hour now, which is what I promised. I really hope that everybody has gained something from this. Thank you all for coming and listening. I'm amazed that so many of you have actually come and listened to me. I thought I might be sat here on my own. We will absolutely do it again. I think we should do it maybe monthly, and I think I'll put a post up when I finish this asking for people for suggestions as to what the topic is that we cover next time. It's easier from my perspective if we just cover one topic per session, and then I can go into it in more depth for you rather than wishy-washying across several. So it's been great listening to you guys. Sarah Poynton tells me that when I click finish, it'll ask me if I want to put it up for you to be able to listen to it again, because Facebook automatically records it. I'll trust that she knows what she's talking about, because I haven't got a clue. So I'm hoping that it will automatically record it. And for anybody that couldn't get to listen to it, I'll put it up in the group and then you can listen. So it's been great having you on board, everybody. Huge thanks, heartfelt thanks for coming and listening to me. And thank you very much for being a part of the community and wanting what I want, which is property sourcing compliance to expand. I love you and leave you now. I'm going to, hopefully, to have a brew by my husband, so that's fantastic. It's lovely seeing you all. Lovely chatting to you all. Good night, everyone, and thank you for coming along. We'll do it again soon.